You are watching Maximus Aviation.
Well, NASA and Boeing are finalizing plans to undock the Starliner from the International Space Station next Friday, September 6, culminating with a Saturday early morning September 7 landing at either White Sands, New Mexico, or in a spectacular fireworks show on re-entry. Of course, NASA already made the decision that astronauts Bush and Sonny, who were supposed to return to Earth inside the Starliner, will remain behind on the space station, sending the Starliner back uncrewed. And even though Boeing didn't like it and kind of threw a hissy fit, smarter minds prevailed and NASA decided it didn't want to risk the lives of Bush and Sonny. I was wondering what the betting line is over at Boeing. If Starliner comes back to Earth unharmed, Boeing's going to be all like, "We told you so." However, if Starliner burns up on re-entry, I'm pretty sure Boeing will disappear like Jimmy Hoffa. But what do you think? How will Boeing react? Let me know down below. And that leads us to the topic of today's video. Because while NASA may be publicly saying that Boeing is 100% on board with their decision to use Crew Dragon to rescue Bush and Sonny, privately anybody and everybody from both Boeing and NASA are leaking word to the media that nothing could be further from the truth. But in the meetings last week when NASA finally made their decisions to go with Crew Dragon, tensions and tempers got hotter than a heat shield on re-entry. According to the New York Post, the meetings attended by senior-level NASA and Boeing employees were tense and often descended into yelling and arguments. A NASA executive familiar with the talk said it was heated. Boeing was convinced that the Starliner was in good enough condition to bring the astronauts home, and NASA disagreed. Quote, strongly disagreed. Man, what is the deal with Boeing's reckless attitude towards human beings? Seems like they never factor the lives of people into any equation they make in the air or in space. However, the NASA source said Boeing's thinking was wildly irresponsible. But in the end, NASA decided to overrule Boeing's wishes and have the company's biggest rival, Elon Musk, SpaceX, bring home Bush and Sonny. Still, the NASA executive said Boeing wasn't happy, and they made that perfectly clear to us. But what's the headline if there's a catastrophic failure, he said. It's not Boeing killed 2 astronauts, it's NASA killed 2 astronauts. So no, it's better safe than sorry, he said. Well, thank God for NASA. However, executives at Boeing also made their displeasure clear to top-level employees in an internal email sent last week from Mark Nappy, the head of Boeing's commercial crew program, that read, "I know this is not the decision we had hoped for, but we stand ready to carry out the actions necessary to support NASA's decision. The focus remains first and foremost on ensuring the safety of the crew in the spacecraft. I have the utmost confidence in this team to prepare Starliner for a safe and successful uncrewed return with the same level of professionalism and determination as you did on the first half of the mission." But according to Boeing employees, the hope is that the Starliner will return safely to Earth, giving the company the leeway to claim that NASA was the one being overly cautious. But if you saw my last video on this subject, you know that the Starliner crew over at Boeing isn't happy. As a matter of fact, they said they're embarrassed and ashamed that their arch-rival Elon Musk and SpaceX Crew Dragon has to rescue Bush and Sonny. They said they really hate SpaceX. They talk trash about him all the time. Real high school stuff. But that feeling of resentment is due to the fact that for the past decade, Boeing has been in direct competition with SpaceX, and the latest developments have been humiliating for Boeing. Plus, they could also prove to be costly, because NASA awarded competing contracts to Boeing and SpaceX in 2014. Boeing received $4.2 billion to build a capsule to take 6 crews to the ISS. But the first 2 Starliner missions were failures, including the maiden crewed voyage. Meanwhile, SpaceX received only $2.6 billion, or about half of what Boeing got, but still managed to complete 9 flights in its Crew Dragon. And ironically and quite humiliating for Boeing, the number 10 SpaceX mission will be to rescue Bush and Sonny. And of course, this embarrassment comes after a year of extraordinarily bad press for Boeing since a panel door blew off Alaska Airlines, a Boeing 737 MAX, followed by at least 20 whistleblowers that have come forward to voice concerns about safety and quality issues at Boeing. And some of those whistleblowers wound up dead. But NASA is publicly standing behind Boeing despite what the company's own employees call a massive screw-up. I think the key word is partner, NASA spokesman Ken Bowersox said during the weekend press conference. A lot of people want to focus on the contractual relationship where we're buying something from a company. This isn't completely like that. We have a contract with Boeing, but it's to work together to develop this capability for our country. So with all that resentment and hostility floating around out there, as of now, Starliner is scheduled to autonomously undock from the space station at approximately 6:04 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on September 6. The capsule will fire its engines and drop out of orbit and target a parachute-assisted landing in New Mexico at 12:03 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on September 7. NASA said they completed the second part of a 2-day flight readiness review on Thursday, August 29, to clear the Starliner for undocking and landing. However, there are some weather situations that could arise and put off the Starliner return, but as of now, it's still a go for next Friday night. Over the last week, flight controllers updated parameters in Starliner software to handle a fully autonomous return, NASA said, and Boeing has flown 2 unpiloted Starliner simulator test flights using the same type of autonomous reentry and landing operations. Also this week, astronauts have been reconfiguring the interior of Crew Dragon, currently docked at the ISS, to support 6 crew members in the event of an emergency evacuation. However, with Starliner leaving the space station next week, Dragon will become a lifeboat for Wilmore and Williams. If a fire or a collision with space junk or a medical emergency or something else forces the crew to leave the ISS, the Starliner astronauts will ride home on makeshift seats positioned under the 4 regular seats inside Crew Dragon, where crews typically put cargo during launch and landing. But at least one of the Starliner astronauts would have to come home without a spacesuit to protect them if Crew Dragon were to happen to depressurize during descent. This has never happened before in a Dragon mission, but astronauts wear SpaceX-made pressure suits to mitigate the risk. The 4 astronauts who launched on Dragon have their suits, and NASA officials say a spare SpaceX suit already on the space station fit one of the Starliner astronauts, but they didn't identify which one. A second pressure suit for the other Starliner crew member will launch on the next Dragon spacecraft mission, Crew 9, set for liftoff on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket no earlier than September 24. I was thinking Boeing really needs to chill. I mean, unless they just enjoy killing people. After all, they are from Washington, the serial killer capital of the U.S. But NASA's decision to go with SpaceX is a win-win for all involved. Bush and Sonny are safe and snug in the space station. And if Starliner fails, then NASA won't have even more blood on their hands. And if Starliner works fine and lands safely in New Mexico, that will be good for Boeing, and they can trash talk all they want and fix the problem and just move on. Like I said, a win-win all the way around. And with that, you're all up to date on the latest of the wild and crazy adventures of Butch and Sonny and their brokeback steed, the Starliner. So what do you think? Now it's your turn to let me know. But I won't know until you let me know down below. And as always, thanks for stopping by. And until next time, this is Maximus.